In the late 1800s, members of the Church of the New Jerusalem, a Swedenborgian faith, came out to the area known as Alnwick Grove from Philadelphia in order to have picnics and for recreation. But how did they get here? Thank goodness the Fox Chase and Newtown branch of the Reading Railroad was completed between 1876 and 1878. Many of us who grew up in Bernathen heard the legends about that railroad bringing all of the new church people to Bernathen. Here's a 1902 photograph of the old Alnwick Grove station on the right and the new Bernathen train station on the left. Here's another vintage photograph of an early Bernathen train station. And here's one from a much later date. Here is some very old footage of a steam locomotive traveling southbound toward Bernathen along the Pennypack Creek. Many of us are aware of the legends about Academy of the New Church students traveling northbound on that rail line to George School to compete in athletic contests. Here we see Carl Alden, and the youngster is Kent Hyatt. Here comes the train, barreling past Lester Osplund's house. I hope it stops to pick up the hoopsters so they can go up to George School to play basketball. Sure enough, and now they're on the way. Let's try to figure out roughly when this video was taken. Here are some ANC students: Kent Hyatt, Heward Sinisvet, Dennis Cooper, Connie Bostock, Ian Osplund. There's Phil Finkelday on the left. Ian's nickname was Squeaky. As it turns out, Ian Kirkland Osplund was born in 1924 and died at the age of 17 in August of 1942. That would mean that the latest possible date of this video footage would have been from the winter of 1941 to 1942. Now, I'm not so sure about the rest of you, but for a long time I've wondered, okay, so did that really happen? And exactly where did that train track go in order to end up at George School and then in Newtown? Here is a list of the stops on that line. It began at the Fox Chase station, then stopped at Walnut Hill, and then Huntingdon Valley, and then Bernathen, then Woodmont, then County Line, Southampton, Churchville, Holland, then George School, and finally terminated at the Newtown station. Here are all the stations on a map. Here is another view of all the stations on Google Earth. Before we move on, and for some comic relief, let's look at a young Boyd Osplund lounging on the tracks in front of his house. And now back to business. Here's a photograph of the Fox Chase station. And here's the station at Walnut Hill. Walnut Hill was essentially where Lorimer Park is. Here's a photograph of the general area. And here's a photograph of the area between Huntingdon Pike and Walnut Hill. Here's a photograph taken in Huntingdon Valley of where that line crossed the West Trenton line. And here's a photograph of the old station in Huntingdon Valley on Welsh Road. There's another photograph. And another. I'll admit that I had forgotten where that was and what it looked like. Here's another shot just north of that station. And here's Bernathen Station. And here's another shot. And here's the site of the famous train crash. And here's the area of the Woodmont Station, which is along Byberry Road. Next stop, County Line Station. There's not a lot to it, is there? Here's what that area looks like today. That's where the trail crosses County Line Road. You can see it behind the fence on the right. Here are some photographs of the old Southampton train station. Many of us know that that is right near the old Strathman's Lumber, which is now a hardware store. I was stopped in my car on Churchville Road at Street Road when I took this photograph. The car is headed back in toward Southampton along Knowles, but if you look off in the distance, you'll see the bridge that goes up and over the tracks along Street Road. So what's the next station after that? Why, it's Churchville Station, and most of us aren't as familiar with that one. To get to Churchville, you turn right on Knowles Avenue off 2nd Street Pike, cross Street Road, where it becomes Churchville Road, keep heading up toward Bristol Road, and north of Bristol Road, the road changes its name back to Knowles Avenue. Shortly after you cross Bristol Road, you'll come to Bustleton Pike, where you will find the Churchville train station on the left. Here is the Churchville station on a cold winter day. Take a look at this map and see where it is. It's on Bustleton Pike and Knowles Avenue. Whoever took this photograph is standing on Knowles. You see the tracks? If you turn left and go up to Elm Avenue, turn right, and proceed along Elm Avenue, you'll notice that the train tracks are now on the right side of the driver instead of the left. After taking that right, now you're on Elm Avenue, and you'll proceed through Springfield Lake. Continue ahead on Elm Avenue till you hit Holland Road, where you will be able to see the former site of the Holland train station. The Holland station doesn't look like much either. It's across the road on the right. Here's another shot of what you would see if you're roughly stopped on Churchville Lane at Holland Road. To continue tracking down the tracks, as it were, turn left on Holland Road and get an immediate right on East Holland Road. To the right of the photograph, you can see that you have to turn right to remain on East Holland Road, where it takes a bend right near what appears to be a stream. I have driven this route quite a few times lately, and it wasn't until just recently where I saw a little bit of evidence of where the tracks continued, right where that road takes a bend. I took this photograph from my car, and if you look on the right very carefully, you can see the tracks coming up and touching the road right before it takes the bend to continue left onto East Holland Road toward Buck Road. Look to the left on this aerial photograph of the same area. You can see Elm Avenue coming up to Holland Road, and then, oh look, the tracks are right on the right-hand side of Elm Avenue for the driver. And if you continue across Holland Road, you can see a line of trees showing you clearly where the train tracks continue. Roughly right where the letter H is in Holland is where I saw that piece of tracks reaching out to touch the road. Now look again at the bottom left of this photograph, aerial photograph. You can see Elm and Holland. You can see that line of trees where the tracks are. You can follow it from the security systems in the bottom left all the way up to the right, follow it past Crown Power Washing, continue across Old Jordan Road, follow the trees again, all the way up to the top right of this photograph, and you can see where Buck Road meets the railroad tracks. Just for fun, I took a left off of East Holland onto Old Jordan Road to see if I could find the tracks crossing that road. Sure enough, here's a photograph, right where I expected the tracks to be. Next I turned around and went back to East Holland Road, turned left, and then took a left on Route 532 Buck Road and headed up toward Newtown. And this is the spot where the tracks meet Buck Road. That's what it looks like, and you've probably seen that on your way up to George School the back way. If you start looking in the bottom left of this photograph, you'll see where Buck Road was overpassed by the tracks. And if you follow the line of trees, you can see it goes right up and then crosses the Neshaminy Creek and then heads up toward the top right of this photograph where you'll see George School. Here's the railroad bridge that crosses the Neshaminy Creek before you get up to George School. And here's an overhead view of the campus of George School. There is a train at the George School station. There's a vintage photograph of George School and the George School depot. And finally, the last stop, the one after George School, is Newtown. The Newtown train station was on Penn Street. There's a look at the station. There's not much to it, is there? There's another view. And another view. I hope you have enjoyed this video about the Fox Chase Newtown line that ran through sleepy Brydathan. I must say that inquiring minds wanted to know, and inquiring minds found out. I wonder who won this basketball game. Can anybody figure it out? Thanks so much for watching.